WMMC HD3 Detroit, KMPS HD3 Seattle, WBMX HD3 Boston.
And on AOL Radio
and Yahoo Launchcast. Psychic Radio is now CBS Radio's The Sky.
Back to Behind the Paranormal
with Paul and Ben Eno. Call now 248-545-SOUL. New skyradio.com.
Have aliens communicated with humans by means of a simple code? Are they really aliens? Or are they really aliens? What does the communication mean?
I guess Are We Really Aliens works too. Hey there, and welcome to the 418th edition of Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno. I'm Ben, and those significant questions came from my co-host and partner in the paranormal, my dad. So this evening, we return to the Rendlesham Forest UFO case, well, specifically Rendlesham Forest in England, where some new witnesses have come forward to illustrate that the December 1980 UFO landings might have been just the tip of the iceberg.
We're very pleased to welcome Brenda Butler, independent paranormal researcher from Leiston. Is it Leiston or Leston?
Leiston.
Neither. Leiston, okay, in Suffolk, England, and our indomitable UK show reporter and good friend, Ronnie Dugdale.
Brenda and Ronnie, welcome to Behind the Paranormal.
Hi
there, Ben. And Paul.
Alrighty, so Ronnie, let's start with you. So before we begin our questions, can you give us the basic background on what happened at Rendlesham Forest in December 1980? Now, let's make it 25 words or less. Because a lot happened, so just a brief summary.
Ben, you're a difficult taskmaster.
I try.
Yes, I wasn't expecting that. Yeah, anyway, in 1980, there was sightings of UFOs over a few days of the Christmas period, where on over a period of 3 nights, a landed craft was seen by Penistone Burroughs on the first night, and on the third night by Charles Holt and others, and Larry Warren's sighting comes into that third night as well.
Okay.
Oh, well, that actually... I was just joking about the 25 words
Maybe 26
or less.
words.
I was joking about the 25 words or less. So if you want to give more detail, you can go for it. But if not, we'll continue with the questions.
Well, let's refer everyone to our podcast page on BehindTheParanormal.com.
Yeah, I think that's best.
Many, many hours. We've covered this case more than any other show on radio and television. We've interviewed all the major witnesses at least once, sometimes several times, and we've gotten everybody into the act. Stan Friedman, Linda Moulton Howe, and all the big names. And Ronnie has been a tremendous help in that. And Brenda now joins the fray.
All right, so as my dad just mentioned, we have covered this case backwards and forwards and interviewed all the major people since 2010. But we suspected that the Rendlesham Forest region was one of those regions where there was much more going on, a possible portal or a flap area. And our visit there a few months ago, wow, it seems like it was years ago when we were there.
Time flies when you're having fun. But.
Yeah, I guess. Confirmed this as far as we were concerned. Or, well, it confirmed that it was a flap area or a portal area or something like that, as far as we can see. So, Brenda,
Hi, Ben.
How are you doing today?
I'm fine, Ben, thanks.
All right, so you're a local resident, and you can be considered the first non-military person to start investigating this case. So how did you first hear about the incidents in December 1980?
Well, I had a friend, Steve Roberts, who I'd known since 1975. He was one of the security guards down at Bentwaters, and he turned up at one of the pubs that one of my friends, Chris Pennington, was playing at, and we got talking about UFOs. So when this happened in 1980, he turned up at one of the Christmas parties that we had, New Year's Eve parties that we had, and he said that a craft had come down in the forest, and that's how I first heard about it. And then he came to my house on January the 2nd, and he came and told me that the craft came down in the forest, but I weren't to say anything until I heard it from other people. And he also asked me to keep his name quiet and never to release his name.
All right, that works. So in your opinion, what exactly happened over those 4 nights?
Well, Ben, I wasn't there. I have investigated and done a lot of interviewing of local people, the British people, and they all says that it happened on the 27th or the 28th. I haven't got any other dates, only the 27th or 28th. And they saw a craft come over, and a big triangular craft with lights on, but nobody saw it land. except for a guy named Neville who was in the taxis. And he was coming along the road with a taxi driver, and he saw a craft come over. The taxi driver stopped the taxi. They got out and had a look, and they saw a craft up in the sky, but they saw a lot of things coming off the craft, and it came down in the field at Capel Green. So all the investigating that I've done and all the interviewing that I've done, then I can only say that, yes, something did happen there. I can't say that was a craft, but something strange happened.
Okay, so the Capel Green landing, which is the site that I visited with you on that day that I was out there with you, that was the same landing that Larry Warren witnessed, or was this a different one?
No. Is that Paul I'm talking to now?
Yes.
Sorry. You sound so sorry. Yes. You went to the field, didn't you? And that's the one that Larry says the UFO landed in. Yes.
Okay.
That was Capel Green.
Now, our understanding is that you and others had experiences at this site long before this, and also since then. Could you tell us about those?
Yeah. Are you talking about sightings, Paul, or
sightings,
events?
Information downloads, other events, seemingly unrelated paranormal phenomena such as Yeti, things of that kind.
Pretty broad.
It's very broad, yeah. So if you could just go right ahead and tell us about some of the things that you experienced, and when the first experiences were for you there, Brenda. I take it they were before 1980.
Yes, 1979.
Okay.
There was, because I was known as the UFO investigator around the area at the time, and if anything happened, even the local police would contact me. Well, in 1979, there was some villagers back in Melton and around the area in Woodbridge. They contacted me to say they'd seen this big craft go over the forest and over the base. And a young couple on a motorbike coming home at 11 o'clock one night, they saw a triangular craft come right over top of them. And so they got in touch with me, and I went out to investigate and interview them. And I went on the base, and I investigated a load of stuff on the base, interviewed Americans on the base, the security guards on the base. Nobody told me I couldn't do it. Nobody told me to get off the base or anything. And that was in 1979. There was quite a lot of UFOs seen around the area at the time, big balls of light. And then, of course, there was 1980. The first one in 1980 was in July, and the second one was in November 1980. We had another craft sighting over Woodbridge and over Bentwaters, and I went down and investigated that. And then there was the December 1981. And when we tried to investigate that, Dot Street and myself, about February, March time, it seemed as though all hell was let loose then, and a lot of stuff was kept quiet. We were told we weren't to investigate it. We were sort of followed around. People we'd spoken to before that in January, February time, they were told to keep quiet. They weren't allowed to speak to us. There was an MOD cordon went around one of the old people's houses, a couple's house that we went to.
MOD being the British Ministry of Defence.
Yeah.
Right.
As soon as we talked to these two elderly people who overlooked the runway lights and told us what they saw happen, they said they saw a helicopter with something sort of like an upturned ice cream cone underneath it, and that hit the runway lights. Next time we went down to speak to them, the MOD had put red and white tape all the way around, and that said MOD property keep out, and we weren't allowed to talk to them. A lot of the farmers by this time, and a lot of the local people also wouldn't speak to us as time went by. They'd all had visits from different people they didn't know. Some said that was the NCA, some said that was the FBI, some said they were intelligent men. They'd all gone round anyway, different people who we'd seen, and they'd gone round to tell them all to keep quiet.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
So how many people in general would you say were involved in this? Were involved as witnesses and were told to keep quiet or didn't keep quiet? How many people do you think witnessed things of this kind at Rendlesham in that period, locally?
Well, when this first came about, a lot of people contacted me before they even went in the newspapers. I put it in the local newspapers about 1981, 82, and they ran a story and asked if anybody had seen anything around the local areas. So I was getting quite a few local people phoning me up and saying what they'd seen, and that was before they even became known. So there was a young couple who were in a place we call Daisy Walk. There was people coming along the road, along the Butley Road. There was a traveller, Mr. Smeekle. He phoned me up and he told me what he saw. There was another lady saw a red flying disc. There was another gentleman said he saw like a torpedo shape go over. All these people saw, there was quite a few. I guess there was about a dozen that we interviewed before 1983. There was also one little lad who was about 9, and he was walking his dog along sort of like from Orford to Bordsey, and he saw a big, what he called it, as a dust cloud up in the sky, and he saw a big green light come out of this dust cloud, and it went down onto the sea just off Island.
Interesting. See, in our brief experience there, this place reminds me of, in this country, in the state of Utah, there's a place called Skinwalker Ranch, and it's one of these flap areas that is extremely active. And people would see things coming through holes in the sky and landing and things of this kind, plus seemingly non-UFO events such as Yeti and other presences. I mean, you have some amazing photographs that you showed us when we were there. Can you tell us about, before we get back into the UFO thing, could you tell us about...
we have a break coming up.
Oh, we do have a break coming up. What am I...
We have about 2 minutes.
Okay, 2 minutes.
Well, actually, probably a minute and a half.
All right, well, we'll give Brenda a chance to start thinking about her answer to that question then.
Sorry.
All right.
Didn't want to have her start and then have to cut her off.
No, well, we always have to do that anyway. And we also want to bring up the issue of Lord David Hill, Peter Hill Norton, I should say, and how you were led to him in this whole thing. And he's been a major spokesman for the common sense, in my opinion, from the British side of the pond for on this UFO issue. Okay, so we are going to take a break here, and you are listening to Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno on CBS New Sky Radio and newskyradio.com. I should say radio.com. That seems to be the better way to get in there if you want to listen to us on the computer. And we're speaking this evening with 2 of the local residents of the area of Rendlesham Forest, where the great 1980 case and many other things apparently that people don't know about did occur. So we will be right back. Stay with us.
Enlighten, empower, enrich. This is CBS Radio's The New Sky.
New horizons, no boundaries.
Rain on my face. Hasn't stopped raining for days. My world is a flood. Slowly I become one with the mud. But if I can't swim after 40 days and my mind is crushed by the crashing waves that be up so high that I cannot fall, let me alone. Lift me up when I'm falling. Lift me up and we can die. Splashing in the ocean, I'm losing control. Dark sky all around. Can't feel my feet touching the ground. But if I can't swim after 40 days and my mind is crushed by the crashing waves that be up so high that I cannot fall, let me alone. Lift me up when I'm falling. Lift me up, we can die. Lift me up, I need you to hold me. Lift me up, keep me from drowning again. Come storms that drench my eyes and dry the stream still flowing, casting down our ways and sin guilt that overthrow me. If I can swim after 40 days and my mind is crushed by the crashing waves of me, I'm so high that I cannot fall. Lift me over, lift me up when I'm falling. Lift me up and we can die again. Lift me up, I need you to hold me.
Psychic Radio is now CBS Radio's The Sky.
Back to Behind the Paranormal.
With Paul and Ben Eno. Call now 248-545-SOUL.
New skyradio.com. Believe.
And welcome back to Behind the Paranormal. And our guests this evening are Ronnie Dugdale and Brenda Butler of Suffolk, England, who are experts, and certainly among the first, certainly Brenda being among the first civilian investigator of the Rendlesham Forest UFO case of 1980. And we're getting into some things that were not generally known about this, and some of which have not been mentioned in public at all. So, Brenda, before we get into the matter of codes, binary codes...
we have one more preliminary question to ask
We
before
do.
we get into that. So that is, who was David Daniels, and how did he lead you to Lord Peter Hill Norton?
David Daniels was a gentleman who turned, he came over to see me, and he stayed with Dot Street for a little while, but Dot and him didn't get on whatsoever. And
Dot being another UFO...
Dot Street,
investigator.
sorry, yeah.
Right, okay, sorry.
And he stayed with her, but they didn't get on. She absolutely hated him, and he just wanted to leave there and come and stay with me. He was a reptilian, and I saw him change into a reptilian on 3 different occasions.
Okay, let's stop there. Okay, now we might be, for some listeners, stretching the bounds of credibility here. Could you tell us what a reptilian is and how this guy came into the area and into your lives?
Well, he turned up as a human, and he said he was from the Pleiades. He was tall and thin, really long arms, long fingers. He was very spiritual. And he didn't eat anything, only green foods, plenty of sweets. He could appear and disappear at will. He could read any book backwards, forwards, whatever. He didn't even have to hardly look at the book, and he can tell you the pages of it. And he could use the telephone. He used to use our telephone when he was staying with us, and nothing appeared on the telephone bill. And when... Let me go back
come
to
stay
it.
here anytime. I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's right. When he was staying at Dot's, anyway, they had a big row, and I went upstairs to see him up to Dot's and knocked on the door, and he said, if it's Dot, you can't come in, but if that's Brenda, No, I said, that's Brenda. He said, well, come in. So I went in, and he said, I think it's about time I show you something. And anyway, I sat on his bed, and he started to shake, and as he shook, he went into like a reptilian type thing. He sort of like had snake skin, and he had slanted eyes, big eyes. Then he started talking in this really, really weird language, and his hands swelled up, and he had veins on his back of his hands all swelled up really, really big, and he started talking in this really weird language. But that was only for about 2 minutes I saw that. And then after he came out of it, he asked for sweets, and he wanted dolly mixtures, which he had there, and he had loads of them. Then we went downstairs because Dot was calling us, and she was getting cross. So we went downstairs, and he said, can I have a glass of water? And she said, no, go back upstairs. You're not to have anything. And then he turned up a few days later. He came to my house, and he stayed with us. And he was showing me all the star charts and everything. He wrote all different grids all over our road maps and over our atlases and everything. And we used to go out and about, and we really sort of gelled together. And then he said to me he wanted to go and see Lord Hill Norton, because Lord Hill Norton, well, he just wanted to talk to him about the Pleiades and that. So I went up to London with him, and we went in to see Lord Hill Norton. We were searched as we went in. And
I'm sorry to interrupt again, but just could you just tell us who Lord Hill Norton was? I know he passed away recently. He was an admiral, was he? Was he on the Admiralty or?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, he's Admiral of the Fleet. He was
Okay.
the equivalent of your Joint Chiefs of Staff.
Okay, very high-ranking British military
As
official.
high as you get.
Yeah, who was realized that something really is going on with UFOs that was a matter of national security. I'm sorry, go ahead, Brenda.
That's all right. He was in the House of Lords. So we went up. He invited us to go up there. So we went in and so I say we searched for him. We went in there. We sat in this room, a small room with a great big huge long table. And David and I sat one side and Lord Hill Norton sat the other side. And I'd taken my Sky Crash book to show him from Rendlesham to see if I could get any information out of him. And David started talking about the Pleiades and his planet and all about the water planet being the Pleiades and that. And Lord Hill Norton was really, really interested in it. And when I asked him to look at Sky Crash and I told him about Rendlesham, he said no.
Sky Crash being your book from
Yeah.
1983. Okay.
Yeah. And then he said, no, I'm not really interested. And I said, well, you know, that was to do with the Americans. And he said, well, I'm not really interested because I guess the fishes get bigger and bigger and bigger. And he said, and he turned to Dave and he said, but I'm interested in what you've got to say about the Pleiades. So we stayed there for quite a while, for an hour or so, I guess. And we asked if he could help us with the case. And he said no, because he was retiring. You know, when he retired, he'd lose his pension and all that if he indulged in all of that sort of thing. So basically, that was that. And then David went to see Lord Glencarty and got on really, really well with them. And he went to stay with Ralph Noyes for about a week or so. And while he was staying with Ralph Noyes, David actually he took him to one of the bridges, I'm not sure which one, but he actually brought forward 8 UFOs. And this was reported in a magazine, and Ralph Noyes told some people that he had actually seen these UFOs while David was staying with him.
Yes, but Paul, for those who don't know, Ralph Noyes done a similar job at the MOD that Nick Pope done in later years.
Oh, Nick Pope. Everyone who sees television documentaries on this knows Nick Pope, and he's been on our show many times, including in the Rendlesham series. Yeah. Well, that's quite a bit to digest, Brenda. Ben, any questions on that before we get into the issue of the codes?
No.
Okay, well, there is a great deal of interest now in the binary codes, which are just series of zeros and ones. It's really very basic computer language that Jim Penniston, one of the major U.S. Air Force witnesses in the December 1980 incident, says was downloaded to him when he touched one of the landed craft, or the landed craft, or one of them anyway. And he said that this came to him later, and they're basing a book on this now. But now Brenda is bringing forward the information that Jim Penniston was not the only one to receive downloaded codes in some form or another in this area and sort of related to this incident. Brenda, can you tell us what's happening with that?
Well, I've been downloading these codes for years and years and years. I mean, my older brother, he can remember me doing loads of symbols and different writings. And that when I was about 5 years old, that's when I first saw a UFO, and so I went aboard a UFO. But since then, I've downloaded quite a lot of them. And in 1979, I downloaded quite a few symbols and codes. In 1983, I downloaded loads and loads of codes, and I've been downloading them most of my life, basically, all along. And not only that, I went on Big Breakfast Television, and I met another woman, Rosalind Reynolds Parnell, and she had more or less the same symbols and codes and people's, ET's names, and that's what I did. And we sort of shoe each other the codes and everything. They were practically similar. And there was another lady, June, up in London. I'd done a UFO conference with her, and she had more or less the same codes and everything. And this was back in the 90s. Mm-hmm. But Ronnie came over to mine. And to be honest, I've never ever thought anything of these symbols or of these codes. I just download them. I don't know what they mean. I haven't got a computer. I've got no way to see what they mean or anything. And that was only when Ronnie came over mine, a couple of weeks ago. And
maybe a bit longer.
And he was looking through all this stuff, and he said, "Oh, look, you've got some codes and symbols and all that here." And I said, "Well, they don't mean anything to me. They mean nothing to me." I said, "I've got loads, pages and pages of them." And then Ronnie took them. And can Ronnie tell you then what happened?
Sure.
If I just explain what happened, Paul, I was Brenda's been very kind recently, and she's turned over her personal diaries, going right back to the 1970s and before, and all through the Rendlesham incident, the people she interviewed, what they said, who done what, and all her papers. If you can imagine, she's got a room absolutely stacked to the ceiling full of papers. And I was going through these, and I come across, first of all, some pages of symbols, and amongst them I recognised some of the symbols to being the same as what Jim Penniston had on his glyphs on the craft. and also the same as what Laurie Redfeld had on her painting. The circle with the triangle in the middle with the anyway, they were the same, and several other similar. Hundreds and hundreds of these glyphs, but them ones in particular I recognised to be of importance because they were the same as what Jim had seen when he touched the craft, and they were on like the number plate on the craft, if you want to put it like that. And so when I'm going through them, and then I come across a diary entry in 1979, and there's binary code. And so I said, "What's this, Brenda? This is binary code." And she said, "Well, I don't know what it is. It don't mean anything to me." And the more I went through the papers, I pulled out pages and pages and pages of this binary. There's loads of it. I mean, I haven't even touched the surface of it yet. But anyway, we've got these binary codes, and I looked at them. Some of them looked really garbled messages, with no breaks in them, not in set bits of 8 or 7, just pages and pages of ones and zeros, and also with the ones and zeros was other numbers like digits 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2, 1, and amongst them. So I asked Brenda what they were, and she said, well, she'd been in the forest and she'd got this download. She was with a fellow researcher called Peter Parrish, and as she saw them, and she describes them the same way as Jim Penniston describes them, just in his mind's eye, coming down in front of him. And she was saying they were coming fast, and there was ones and zeros. The ones and zeros were coming down, the digits were going acrossways. And as she was seeing them, she was shouting them out, and Peter wrote them down. And I've spoken to Peter about this since, and that's all been verified. And it turns out lots of other people have been having downloads as well. There's 2 others that I have to see yet that can, had the same sort of downloads. So anyway, I got these ones and zeros, and I thought, well, what do I do with them? I know how to translate binary with a simple binary translator. I tried to translate them. That was beyond me. I couldn't do it. And so then I approached our friend Gary Osborne and asked him if he could help me.
He's been on the show before, yeah.
He's been on the show before, yeah, and I know he's done some work with Jim Penniston, and I thought Gary's the person who is only one person who can help me. Not only because of the binary, because of all these glyphs, hundreds and hundreds of glyphs. Gary was very helpful, and he also had a friend who could help us as well, and the friend wants to remain anonymous, so that's fine. Anyway, I sent the binary off to Gary, and the expert had a look at him, and out of the 7 pages that I sent him, 1 came back with a definite message on it. Now, that didn't surprise me. I weren't expecting any messages out of the ones, because there was digits obviously missing, and Brenda said, well, she couldn't keep up with them. They were coming so fast, and down the forest in the dark, sat at a bench, she wrote down what she could remember. So I wasn't surprised when some of them come back. I mean, they're definite letters, but they're scrambled and there's bits missing. But then there was one that came back with a definite message. Now, do you want me to read that one out to you? Okay. So the actual binary, what came out, the letters, where are we? Reads, visit, 83, landing, then OMP, then Earth.
What do you make of that? Either you or Brenda.
Brenda, what do you make of that one?
Well, I don't know. Ronnie and I thought it meant landing on planet Earth in 83, or 83 needn't be a year. It could be 83 landings or whatever.
Or 83 places. Well, I mean, a skeptic might ask, how do we know you didn't make up these codes and have them translated later? But you have witnesses who have attested to the idea that you received these before the 1980 incidents that everybody knows about, and that other people received them as well. Have you coordinated with anyone else on any messages received in this way?
Peter,
okay.
We're going to see him tomorrow night.
Yeah, Peter Parrish, we're going to visit him tomorrow night.
Yeah.
He's almost certain he's got recordings of Brenda receiving a download. He filmed and taped quite a lot in them days. That was around about 2000. No,
2001.
Yeah. 2001 to 2007.
Yeah.
All right. Well, on that note, we have to take another break, I'm afraid, but we will be back with our guests, Brenda Butler and Ronnie Dugdale, to talk about these codes in a little more depth. We'll be right back. You're listening to Behind the Paranormal on CBS New Sky Radio and newskyradio.com and radio.com as well. And we'll be right back. Stay with us.
Enlighten, empower, enrich. This is CBS Radio's The New Sky.
New horizons, no boundaries.
Breathing from a hole in my lung, I had no one but faces in front of me, racing through the void in my head to find traces of a good luck academy. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Sparks ignite, I'm trading for thought about no one and nothing in particular. Watched the second socket and drove. Resent nothing. There's goodwill inside of me. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Wake me up low with a fever. Walking in a straight line, set me on fire in the evening. Everything will be fine. Waking up strong in the morning, walking in a straight line. Lately I'm a desperate believer, but walking in a straight line. Something I'll never forget. I felt desperate, stuck to the marrow, invisible to everyone else. I'm a sex change and a dancer with no heroin. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Wake me up now with a fever. Walking in a straight line, set me on fire in the evening. Everything will be fine. Waking up strong in the morning, walking in a straight line. Lately I'm a desperate believer, walking in a straight line.
Psychic Radio is now CBS Radio's The Sky.
Back to Behind the Paranormal.
With Paul and Ben Eno. Call now 248-545-SOUL. NewSkyRadio.com.
Welcome back to Behind the Paranormal. We are discussing, excuse me. Oh, God, this has been a long day. Discussing the binary codes received from Brenda and the possible meanings of them and what they mean for the rest of us.
All right. Well, one thing that strikes me here, Brenda and Ronnie, is these are there are two things. These are very terrestrial. In other words, if these people were not or are aliens, and there's some disagreement about what they really are, where they're really from, especially from Jim Pennison's point of view, if I may be allowed to speak for him. It's very terrestrial. In other words, referring to this planet as Earth. I mean, one would think that someone from somewhere else would have a different name for the planet. As we do. There was somebody from,
or it could be like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and somebody built the planet and they just came up with Earth, and everyone just thought it was bland and boring.
Anything is possible in the multiverse. There's nothing boring about Earth, I can assure you that. And then there's the matter of was this meant for Brenda or any of the others to receive it, or was it sort of, if you want to say, broadcast or beamed or whatever to someone else, perhaps in higher terrestrial authority, such as someone on one of the, I know both the bases are, I guess one of the bases at Bentwaters is closed and Woodbridge still has some RAF activity. Is that correct? Was it meant for someone monitoring it there and you just happen to pick it up? Or what say you on that?
I don't know. It could be quite true. I really don't know. All I know... See, I don't understand any of this, Paul. That's the problem. I mean, as I said
Not that
before,
any of us really do.
No, I don't understand them. I mean, I didn't know they were worth anything or they meant anything until Ronnie started translating them.
Yeah.
You know, but a lot of the stuff that we have found out tonight, I mean, is just really sort of really weird. You know, I don't know. As I say, I'm not the only person down there who get them anyway, because when Peter's down there with me, he's got them. And when we're down there, one thing that you've got to understand is we're in tune with the forest. I've been going down there 33 years now, and I've made friends with a lot of the ETs that are in the forest, and we've seen them, and I've got photographs of them. I've got photographs of their ships, and other people who come down there have seen the ETs. The little ones, the tall ones, you know, we've seen the Yetis, we've seen the little monks and all kinds of stuff down there.
Well,
But
I'm sorry, you remember what happened to Ben there, and we won't get into that,
Yeah.
but I had, you know, had I not been there myself, and I try to be a rather skeptical person, or at least balanced in that way, you know, I would think you might be a little batty, but I know you're not, because I have felt it myself. I didn't see any Yeti or anything, but there were presences there. And the odd thing was that I felt as though I belonged there. What is that about? You know.
No, that's right. That is right. I mean, anybody who comes down there says the same thing, especially if they're in tune with the forest. You know, I think you've got to be in tune with the forest. You've got to love the forest.
Absolutely.
And I absolutely love the forest. And we always say love and light, and we haven't come to harm you. And as I say, I've been going down there for so long, and I don't know, I just love the forest. I can't stay away. You know, I have to be down there. And if I try to stay away, then I as though they're calling me.
We'd be there with you.
That's right, great.
Okay. Ronnie, now you said that there were other messages. What other messages have been taken from these codes that you, so far anyway?
Okay, so I've got about 4 decipherable messages. There's a lot of garbled messages where there's obviously errors in there, and Brenda's described that they come to her so quick that she couldn't write them down. She knew there was errors, but she wrote down what she could. But Brenda found a notebook in a rucksack a couple of days ago that had been there since when?
2001.
Since 2001. And these binary messages were in there. They were in distinct blocks of 8 bytes, and I knew that with a simple binary translator I could decipher them. Now there are a few errors, but I'll just read out the first one to you, and you can make of them what you will. The first letter has got 9 digits, but the first 8 spells W, and then so I've put the second one in brackets, so I'm assuming she wrote one too many. The second letter is C, so that then spells C-O-M-E, so I'm presuming that says we come. Then the next block of digits, there's 4 that don't mean anything, 0101 in brackets, but then it says I. So I'm reading into that in. And then the next letter, the next word is a definite piece, P-E-A-C-E. And then the next line is L-A-N-D-I-N, landing, but then there's a D. I don't know where that come from, but anyway, that's what it says. So I've written it down, and then a G. So looking at that, it reads like landing. Then just the 0, just a naught, you know, the binary 8 bits for naught. And then it says, without doubt, planet, and then Earth. Then the next line, it says F-I-S-S-T. So taking into account that the first S is just 1 byte different to the R, that could read first. Then after that, that's definite visit, V-I-S-I-T. Oh no, after, in between the visit, you've got the VI, then you've got the numbers 24836. And the dash, I asked Brenda about the dash, she said that's where she missed something out, she don't know what it was.
Okay.
Could be anything. So it says visit, and then it's got an O again with this extra 1 digit on the end. So if you take the 1 digit off the end, you've got O, and then a dash and 442, and then you've got Earth. Then following the Earth, you've got another dash, 24836, another dash, and then 2481. And now the last word spells loam, L-O-M-E. But if you take the letter H, it's just 1 digit or 1 byte different for it to be an H. So like that could read or could mean to read, we come in peace, landing on planet Earth, first visit of Earth home. That was that one.
All right. Let me ask my son a question here.
Yeah.
When we were there that night, did you feel as though anything was trying to communicate with you?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yes, you did, Ben. Come on.
Well, he did the shaman thing and was unconscious
Yeah,
and doesn't
I know.
generally remember what happens.
No, I really don't remember. If something tried to contact me, then I don't know.
I remember a bunch of dogs that got upset.
No, that could just be me.
All right, well, I don't know, maybe you'll start writing down codes in your sleep. Okay, there are a couple of possibilities here that I wonder if you have considered. We, as a rule, we being Ben and I, don't really trust a lot of messages that are received from the great beyond, or not that they are not received from the great beyond, but whether they're telling the truth is another thing.
Yeah.
We don't really trust aliens very much. We have found in the paranormal in general that most things are not what they appear to be, and that you can get into a lot of trouble if you take them seriously. For example, the Phoenix Lights phenomenon down in Arizona is something that I myself have witnessed. Is kind of makes me a little suspicious. Do you feel that whoever is sending these messages is legitimate, is on the up and up, is what they appear to be, and that is benign and coming in peace, that sort of thing? Or could this be a ruse?
Right, Paul. This is what I feel. This might not be necessarily the same as what Brenda. I believe that this phenomena exists in the forest. Looking at the binary codes and looking at the binary codes that Jim downloaded, there seems like a fingerprint the same. It seems as if it's come from the same source. Mm-hmm. Wherever or whatever that is, whether it's terrestrial, whether it's part of a covert operation or someone playing mind games or whatever, there's errors similar to Jim's. And, I'm not saying that Jim made mistakes when he wrote his down. I'm sure Brenda has told me that she thinks she may have made mistakes, but it seems as if it's from the same source. And
okay.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, Jim was probably a little shaken up. I don't want to speak for him. We're going to get him in on this discussion at some point in future shows. But he feels that these were, and John Burroughs too, they feel that these were time travelers. They weren't aliens in the generally accepted sense of the word. Do you get any impression on that, Brenda? You're very sensitive on these things. What do you feel? Where do you feel these people are from? Because this fellow said he was from the Pleiades. But what say you on this matter of where this information is coming from?
No, I've got messages from which relate to interdimensional visitors to our Earth, and I've also got messages which they talk about interstellar traveling through other dimensions and from the future and from the past.
That would strike me that all three might go together. That's how you travel, I suppose, from one star to another, according to our understanding at the moment, would be through other dimensions where you're already there. That kind of thing, I suppose. Traveling without moving, as it's been said. Well, very interesting. Okay, now what is the next? We have another break coming up, but we have a minute or two. What is the next step now in
Okay, the next step is from what me and Brenda discussed. We're going to go through all her research, all her papers from years, and I've spoken to Gary about this tonight, and I'm going to pull out everything that's got a symbol. There's lots of scientific symbols that we don't understand, and lots of numbers and different codes. Not all binary codes, but they appear to be codes. We're going to pull everything out and then go through it, and then we're going to hand it over to Gary and his other expert, and they're going to get the first look at it. Being they've been so very helpful in helping us to get started. But that's the first thing. I mean, I've got some other codes here that I've deciphered. If you want to hear what they say.
Oh, actually, we have to take a break, but when we come back, I want to give Brenda a chance to talk about her upcoming book, and let's find out about these glyphs, too. So you are listening to Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno on CBS New Sky Radio, and we will be right back. Stay with us.
Enlighten, empower, enrich. This is CBS Radio's The New Sky.
New horizons, no boundaries.
friend. And now let's start. Is this your name or a doctor's eye chart? I'm trying to comprehend you, but I got a dyslexic heart. I ain't dying to offend you. I got a dyslexic heart. Thanks for the book, now my table is ready. It's a library or a bar. Between the covers, I touch you when ready. Half angel, half tongue. I'm trying to comprehend you, but I got a dyslexic heart. Oh, I am dying to offend you. I got a dyslexic heart. Correctly, you need me directly. Help me with this part. Do I date you? Do I hate you? Do I got a dyslexic heart? It keeps swaying. What are you saying? Think about staying, but you just playing, making passes. Well, my heart could use some classes. Got a dyslexic heart. Do I read you correctly? I need you directly. Help me with this part. Do I love you? Do I hate you? I got a dyslexic heart.
Psychic Radio is now CBS Radio's The Sky. Back to Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno. Call now 248-545-SOUL. New skyradio.com.
Welcome back to Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno, and we are talking about the possible implications of these binary codes, as well as we're going to get into in this last section of the show about Donna's book, which, Donna, you actually said the one you wrote with
Brenda.
Donna, sorry.
You have had a long day, haven't you?
It's been a rough day. I'm very sorry. So, Brenda, now that I have your name correct. All right, so tell us about the book that you wrote with Dot Street and Jenny Randles?
Yeah, and also
it's out of print, correct? So you're also working on something new, right?
Yeah, Ben, we wrote that back in 83, 84, and it was the very first book on the Rendlesham UFO. But the thing is, when we wrote it, we just wrote it on our experiences and on our findings. You know, we didn't do really much investigating after sort of 83, 84. Not on that book anyway, because we just wrote what we knew at the time. So basically that's what that was about. And yes, that sold quite a lot of books, sold thousands. The Japanese bought 79,000 of them, or had 79,000 printed, and they sold out. So, and then the publisher wouldn't publish anymore, because I think when Neville Spearman had the contract to do our book, when he was the publisher, he had the MOD go there and tried to take the book off the shelf. And America wouldn't accept it. They wouldn't accept it, so it didn't go to America. But the book that I'm doing now is basically about my life, how I got into this, you know, and then really all our adventures down the forest and what's actually happened to us. There's a story in there about David Daniels, the whole complete story about what we've just been talking about on here, the reptilian, and another one about Karen, who was, her husband was the helicopter pilot over those nights when they went out from the 67th Rescue Squadron. And I've got the whole story of her in the book. I've got a story of a dog walker who went into the forest and what he saw on the night of the 27th, and several witnesses of what they saw, and mine and Peter's adventures and other people's adventures down the forest. And I'm writing that book with Philip Kinsella, who's also an author and who's wrote books on the paranormal and different things and that. Okay. And he's put some chapters in too. So, and that should be out within the next 2 or 3 months. Okay.
Stick around after the show. Stay on here. I might have an idea for you. But let's get back in our last few minutes then to the glyphs, the symbols that also came with this binary code. Can you tell us about that, either of you?
Do you want to do it, Ronnie? Because then we can talk about this latest one tonight.
And how they might compare with what Jim Penniston copied from the side of the craft.
I don't know, you see, so the thing is, I can honestly say I haven't seen Jim Penniston's symbols. Nobody's shown them to me, and once again, I'll repeat, I haven't got a computer. I haven't got access to anybody else's computer. Ronnie is the first one now to show me these symbols.
Okay. All right.
The first one that jumped out at me, Paul, is the circle with the triangle in the middle and the two spheres on the circumference of it. And they're not exactly the same as Jim's in his notebook. They're not exactly the same as the Utsura Bune UFO, but they seem to be similar. That's the circle with the triangle, but in each of the glyphs that I've seen of Brenda's, they're in a different position. And there's one or two of the other symbols that were on Jim Penniston's glyph come up in them as well. But there are pages and pages and hundreds of these glyphs. And Brenda don't know what any of them mean. I don't know what some of them look almost, like, I don't know, Egyptian. And there's all sorts of at the moment, Gary and another expert is looking at him. And okay. We're waiting for him to hear back from him. But there are lots more that we've uncovered. I'm sure they all mean something. They're very detailed. There's some alienatic writing, which was when you was on Big Breakfast, Brenda. Who was the lady on there?
Ross Reynolds Parnell.
Ross Reynolds Parnell. Brenda had channeled these glyphs, and when she met this Ross, she had the same glyphs in her book.
Really?
These alienatic alphabet. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Just we only have a few more minutes left. I'm just wanted to assure everyone we're going to stay on this subject, and we're going to find out more and get some more people on who have witnessed these things. But Brenda, I understand just for if you could just tell us very briefly, you had a run-in with Colonel Hall, Lieutenant Colonel Hall, the deputy commander of the base, who's been on our show many times. Can you just tell us in just a few words what that was about?
You mean I had a run-in with him? You mean when we were arrested on base?
Yes, that might.
Is that what you mean?
Qualify, yeah.
Or he might mean when you
what?
When you took control of his son.
Oh well, yeah. Well,
accused of kidnapping his son.
Well, he accused me of kidnapping his son. Yeah. Because when Colonel Holt went to the States and his son was 16, Chuck Jr., he was very, very lonely and bored, and him and his other friend Tom, who was Ted Conrad's son, they phoned me up. I don't know where he got my phone number from, but he said he was Chuck Holt's son, and could they come over with me and Dot and go around with us? And I didn't believe him. I thought it was a wind-up. But no, he sort of said he had information. So we went over and picked him up. He took us to the landing site in the forest, and then for the next sort of before Colonel Holt come back again, he came out nearly every day and every night with us. We went to Colonel Holt's house and sort of spent time with him, and he came out and about with us. And that's a standing joke. He knows I didn't really kidnap him, but everywhere we go, he says I kidnapped his son, and
He plied him with drink.
Yeah, I plied him with drink, and I don't even drink. I don't touch a drop of drink. But anyway, we plied him with drink and got him drunk to see if he would tell us the truth. But that's just a big wind up now. That wasn't true.
I was just curious about that. But we're flat out of time, everyone, and we wanted to thank Brenda Butler and Ronnie Dugdale for all the work they've put in preparation for this show too. And it's just the beginning. We'll have them back, and thank you very much, both of you, for being with us on Behind the Paranormal this evening.
Oh, you're welcome, Paul and Ben.
Bye.
Okay, very good. Bye-bye. Okay, we point out that you can get my books at the Barnes & Noble Nook and Kindle, Amazon Kindle. And our website, of course, is behindtheparanormal.com, where you can find information on guests, past, present, and future, and lots of information in general.
So many thanks to our producer, Brandon Jackson, and we will see you right here next week, February 3rd, when my dad and I will host an open-line show to tackle some more of those listener emails on many paranormal topics.
In the meantime, tune into our Boston Providence Drive Time show on WOON 1240 AM and ONWorldwide.com at 6 p.m. Eastern Time every Monday. And check out the almost 450 free podcasts of past shows, including the Rendlesham series, at www.behindtheparanormal.com. And we leave you this evening with a thought from that old darling Albert Einstein. Anyone who doesn't take truth seriously in small matters cannot be trusted in large ones either.
So thanks for joining us on our great cosmic journey, and we shall see you next time.